Hi there. My name is Owen Bastable, and I'm with the University of Oregon, and I am a Project ReACT trainer. Thanks so much for joining me today. I will be giving you a brief overview of a strategy called the personal matrix. So, where I'd like to start is briefly describing what the personal matrix is. Some people refer to the personal matrix as creating a behavior dictionary. We can think of it as a tool for helping us draw on students' prior knowledge and experiences with school, but also with their home and their community. You can also think about the personal matrix as a way of helping inform ourselves about how we teach and talk about expectations with students while they are at school. So the personal matrix can be used as a whole class activity, similar to what you may already have seen in your own school, a behavior matrix that looks something like this. In some cases, positive behavioral supports. If you're implementing that in your school, you will see these around schools. But what the personal matrix has done is tweaked the school matrix that we often use and added two more columns. So if you look on the right side of this picture, you will see there is school, home, and also friends. So these two new columns are added in this activity. So you might ask yourself, well, how do I do this with students? So we wanted to provide you with a lesson plan that will make this easy for you to use with students. Or if you've done it already, it'll be an opportunity to review the steps. So here are the steps. There are 7 of them that I'd like to walk through with you to show you how to do this with your students. Here is a picture of a school matrix, which has the school expectations and also has home and friends in this case, or you could call it community or neighborhood expectations. So the first step is, in doing this with students, is to ask students about the purpose of expectations. So in general, what are expectations? Why are they important? Why do we need to talk about them throughout the school year? The second step is to review the school-wide expectations and give the students specific examples. So what does it mean to be safe, respectful, and responsible? So giving the students the language to understand why we talk about safe, respectful, responsible, or whatever the expectations are in your school. Next, ask the students to fill in examples for their home. So these are what it looks like to be safe at school. What does it look like at your home? And you go through this column with your students. So what does it look like to be respectful and responsible? And then you do the same with friends all the way down. Next, you can ask students to share out any similarities or differences they may see. So they might notice that in their home, keeping hands and feet to self is not something they are expected to do. Or when there's a problem at home, instead of telling an adult, they're talking to an older sibling. So they might see some differences. They may also see some similarities in that at home we are also expected to listen to adults and respect adults. The last thing you can do is have the students turn in their matrix for review. And this is an opportunity for you to look through all of the matrices from your students and see how they describe these expectations. And then you can return them to the students after you've collected all the information and been able to use it to inform the matrix that you're maybe using in your classroom, or if it's a school team, you may be looking at school-wide to see how this looks with the school-wide behavioral expectations. And here's an example of what the matrix may look like when it's completely filled out. Okay, so I wanted to also talk about some variations to the personal matrix. And so this is some examples of what else you might use it for. Some cases, if you're working in a classroom with students with special instructional needs, we may consider using this one-on-one if you think you're going to get more information from them. You may also consider this with the younger students, using one-on-one interview versus having them, if they're not able to write, maybe having them come up to your desk and collecting this information one-on-one from them. You may do it in small groups if you have those opportunities throughout the day. And then you may also, again, thinking about younger students, have them draw out expectations. So what does it look like at school? What does it look like with your friends? What does it look like at home? Can you please draw a picture of those for me? One of the things we have found to be helpful is having teachers do this themselves before they ask their students to do it. And this is good practice in general, I think, when you're trying out a new lesson. So you might ask yourself, what are the school-wide expectations? And how do I implement these in my classroom? How am I safe? How am I respectful? And then also think about your home. How am I safe, respectful, responsible in my home? So how do these apply to you personally? And finally, in social situations, are the expectations different for you when you're out with your friends? Here are some tips we found that can be useful to help make this a successful experience for your students. One is to introduce the day before you do the activity. So they might be able to take it home and think it through a little bit before you ask them to share information on this on their own matrix. You might choose a student or two who you think might be a good candidate to share some examples to demonstrate what you're looking for from other students. And then you might also need to ask some guiding questions. Sometimes students aren't sure what safe, responsible, respectful behavior looks like. So giving them some examples can really help them make it more concrete. Because sometimes it can be a bit abstract for students. So asking them, what chores do you have? Who do you take care of? Are some good examples of guiding questions. And then, you can also share from your own experiences as well. So finishing up, here are some additional resources you might be able to use. The first is a tips for success, which is will provide for you. This is a one-pager that explores and explains many of the things I've been talking about in this short video. You can also look at the culturally responsive field guide, which is, there's a link here too in the slides, which we'll provide you. And then finally, you can also reach out to me or anybody on our training team. We'd be happy to help walk you through using this with your students this year. So thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with me or anybody on our team.